Ryan, we'll start with you. Just obviously, Sean Burke brought you in. Just a thought on the news that he's departing the organization.
Yes, it's tough news. I know he brought me in to change the fortune of this organization and his as well, right? He knew he's on a hot seat. That's why he brought me in. So I feel like that's tough. I feel like I let him down. And Sean's a good friend of mine as well. We got to be close throughout this process. We spent every day together since I took the job. So that's always tough to see someone leave, especially a quality person like Sean.
So how was the dynamic between you two?
It was great. I mean, our office right next to each other. We'd walk in back and forth, and he did a lot of the GM stuff that paperwork and the scouting, organizing those things. That was stuff that he did. So it allowed me to focus on the football club.
Jim Popp in. Obviously, you guys have history. What do you make of that move?
Yeah, I think Jim's look at his resume, right? And I've coached for him and played for him, so he's really good at bringing in American talent. His track record speaks for itself. So that's a decision that they made, management, and I was all for working with Jim.
And structurally, how will that work? Does your workload change one way or the other?
Well, Brendan Tam has taken more of the logistic stuff, the paperwork, and all the transactions and things that Berkey was doing. Jim's sole focus right now is finding American talent. He's got a lot of connections in the States, and that's why we brought him on.
What's your long career?
Sure. Did you ever live this kind of tough of a situation in a season?
No, I'd say it's been tough. Everybody's frustrated, management and fans included. The players and coaches were all frustrated trying to find answers. We told the guys, let's find guys to be the part of the solution, not the problem, right? And so, it's been frustrating, almost like Groundhog Day, but we're fighting through it.
Do you tend to maybe want to change the way you approach some games during the game? Knowing you got good running back that you throw a lot because you're behind. Coming back, those guys, I don't know, like coaching-wise.
Yeah, I think, you look at our last game, we scored on our first drive, stayed on schedule. We knew we had to, we kind of got to throw the ball to set up the run. We went up 7-0, had an opportunity to potentially go up 2 scores, and that would have changed the way we approached it. Then next thing you know, we have the drop field goal and then the turnover there, and then, now you're down, 21 points, whatever it was, and then you're out of your running game.
Ryan, you still have 2 games against Hamilton this year. What's the focus right now going forward? Is there a thought about the playoffs? I mean, I know you want to win a game. I know the focus immediately is the Lions, but just generally the focus going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I told the players, we're not out of it. I know people think I'm a crazy man for believing in that, but that's just that's the truth, right? We're not. I mean, we haven't won a football game. We're trying to win a football game. Focus on BC. Starts with 1, but I was telling those guys we're not out of it. But at the same time, we're all playing and coaching for our jobs.
What kind of moves would you make with the roster this week?
We'll see. We're kind of still there, with their injuries and different things, and salary cap always comes in your decision making there. So we'll have some wrinkles. Obviously we got to see who the players are. Brought in Sapp. He could dress last week in the first week. We feel like he can play, so we're going to give him more opportunity.
Is Mayer your quarterback this week?
Yeah, Jake's gonna be our quarterback this week. I thought he had started off, pretty good. I think the pick 6 kind of when the wheels fell off a little bit, and try to get Max some reps last week to see where he's at. He's still got to work some rust off. Didn't have a training camp, and then it's unfortunate because we're gonna play Bryson a bit too, and he got hurt on the short yards. That's why you guys didn't see him on the field.
How long is Bryson out?
He'll be able to play this week. He just couldn't protect himself, right? They had a good rush, and one of his kryptonites is if he can run and throw it. He's a physical player, but when he doesn't have his full toolbox, I feel like that could lead to an injury.
Any other injury updates? I know Poco and Briggs didn't finish last game.
Yeah, Poco, we'll see. Briggs, I think I might be this week. Poco's just been fighting through some things. Goose is probably gonna be questionable. You didn't see him out there today, so we'll see him on day 3. He's pretty confident that he'll be available, and he's a guy that plays through a lot of injuries.
On the O-line too, I think you had Julian Pearl back out there today, and you had Sam Carson. It looks like getting some reps in there as well.
Yeah, so Barliv I thought played well last week. Both weeks he's been available for us. Julian's a good player, so we want to get him back out there, and we got to see what we have in Sam. I thought he had a good camp. Took that next step, but we got to see if he can do it consistently for a full 60. So Barliv will dress too. Both those guys might play there.
Just for clarity, who's number 2 quarterback this week?
McLeod.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll see. Bryson's still fighting through some things. Like I said, he'll be available, but probably won't be up to the full strength.
Yeah, Jim, welcome to Ottawa. Just take us through the decision to join the Redblacks.
Well, this is one of my homes, Canada. So I've spent just as much time in Canada as I ever have in the U.S. So I live and breathe the CFL and the Canadian tradition, and I'm very happy to be back in the league, and I appreciate the opportunity that Ryan and Mark have given me to be able to join and help this organization.
Why, beyond,
Yeah.
the CFL connections in Canada, what made Ottawa appealing to you?
Well, I mean, who wouldn't like Ottawa? Ottawa's a great place. I mean, it always has been. The visits I've ever been here, the many years that I've spent, 28 years with the CFL, and watching this place rebuild itself several times. But, in a situation like it is, for me, first, it's Ryan. I've been a real believer of his, being a player and a coach, and watching him grow. I was doing my best to try to get him to Toronto before I ever left Toronto. They made a very good decision bringing him in when they did, and then they've made a great decision, Mark has, of getting him here to Ottawa. So watching, from the outside, I got a lot to understand and learn, and I hate to see anybody lose their job, but I get a call, and if I can help Ryan and Mark and this organization bring itself back up, as much as we can, and get it going this year and then into next year, I want to do that. That's part of my. I know I was in Montreal a long time, but really a lot of my career has been rebuilding teams and starting teams and starting leagues, and I look at that as part of this one. I think going back to last year, what's it been, 16 games now? So 10 this year, but it's a real challenge, and that's appealing to me to try to help get it turned around.
How much of that previous role that you had in the UFL, does that help in terms of bringing in some of that American talent?
Yeah, so for 4.5, almost 5 years, I've been part of two, the USFL that merged and ended up the UFL, that I've been the senior vice president of player personnel, so I've been overseeing all the personnel. So I've been very heavily involved and been the liaison with the NFL and making sure and having hot list of players and help bringing in the talent that's come in and out of that league. And there's, by the time I have left out of there, we've had over 1,800 players that have worked out in the NFL. So there's a lot of players that I've seen in the past 5 years, let's just say, that I can help tap into, and hopefully if we need player change, if we do, that we have a selection of people to go to. So hopefully that'll help. It's not a guarantee, but we'll see.
And from a quarterback perspective, do you see, and this can be an Ottawa question, but it can also be a league-wide question, because there's a lot of veteran quarterbacks near the end of their career. Do you see a lot of quarterbacks down south that can be really good quarterbacks in this league, or where are you at with that?
That's a very open question. When I say that, the rare guy comes along that plays their first season in the CFL and does well. You have one or two a decade that can kind of do that. The rest of them back up, they develop, they probably by the time they're 28, 29 are getting into their prime. The game slows down for them, and they're much more prepared. We've seen that with, I'm just going to say, like Fajardo of recent time. People at one time didn't think McLeod could do it, and he's won a Grey Cup. Vernon Adams was talked about; he couldn't play, and he's been one of the stars in the league. It's just over time. That's really what happens with most, and all these guys were excellent players in college. Whether they've gone to an NFL team or not. Some of the best players that have ever played in the CFL at that position never went to the NFL. They came right to this league, and they developed, and then they got their shot, and they were great college players, but they really didn't play in other leagues. So it's a great question. I think a lot of it has to do with the player being at the right place with the right people at the right time, and coach here may have that person here already, and if he does, and he may have people, I think the guys he believes in all of them, and then there's a lot to winning. I mean, there's a lot, and then there's little things that can turn it from losing to winning, and this man right here can get that done, and it's going to happen.
You said you've got a lot to learn here, but what are the most urgent thing maybe you can bring to this organization in the next few weeks to turn things around, like Coach said?
I think the number one thing is, yeah, I'll be looking for talent here, but I think the number one thing is just my experience, to be able to be a lending hand of even a sounding board for Coach here and Mark, and anything that people are taking on different roles since Sean's not here, and being comfortable that I can lend a hand in all these areas. So just look, nothing replaces experience and wisdom in all these places. So I've had a lot of that, and not just in this league, but in other places, and experienced different things to give people patience to understand and hopefully get things turned around quickly.
And from what you watched in the last few weeks, or if you were able to watch, what was missing here in Ottawa since the beginning of the season?
Well, I've watched games where the team's been in the game, and little things have turned. That ball bounced a different way, might have missed a field goal that changed some momentum. But it's not that the team hasn't been in it. And then at some point, maybe the game got away. But if the ball bounces the opposite way, or the ball hits upright and goes in, how quickly momentum can change and belief, and it just takes maybe one win, and the next thing it's going the opposite direction. So it can be changed, how quickly and when it will. But do I have a belief it will change? It will start going the other way, and there'll be success here under this man.
Did you talk to the players, or will you talk to them?
No, I don't think that. I don't think that's necessary, and I would never do that unless he felt it was necessary. I don't think that's necessary. I don't need to do that. I'm here to help. I don't need to be in a high visible role. Titles don't mean anything to me. It's the opportunity to help, not just this team, but if I can help the league, and that's important to me, because I love the CFL, and it's embedded in me and always will be. And I'm very happy to be back here.
Do you have a message for the Redblacks fan that lives through the sequence that they're in right now?
Yeah, believe. Just believe. You've been in times where you weren't winning, and you even had teams fold, and then you came back and you've won Grey Cups after that, and then things kind of go in waves sometimes. It might be within a season, it might be within a couple years, and sometimes through your ups and downs, you may win games. It may not be that you haven't won a game. But just believe, because the tide will turn, and you'll be very proud of this team.
It sounds like you believe that the team isn't as bad as the record would indicate.
I don't think in most cases teams are as bad as their record when they're having down times. But I also say when teams are really good and winning, they're not quite as good as everybody thinks they are either. So it goes both ways.
Was it always your goal to get back to the CFL? Did you apply for jobs up here, or?
I've never applied for a job. I've talked to people at times when something's open, not as an interview, but just like what's going on, or tap into people that might know what's going on. But to actually apply for a job, no. People, I think, know how to get a hold of me, and it's just I've been very busy. I've never not worked until a little bit this year. I've been with 2 universities working. I've been helping or in the ground floor of developing a football league that has played longer than any spring football league's ever played, and gained a lot of different experiences and met a lot of people. So it's been very busy. I've enjoyed it. I've had a great time. I've got to meet a lot of people I can tap into, and but this has been a good portion of my life, and it's been Canada and the CFL has blessed my family, and I've always been a big fan. I've always talked to the league office, especially the last 4 or 5 years I've worked in other leagues, to stay in touch and in tune. I've talked to commissioners at different times, and anybody that needed help or reached out, I've always been there for them, and that hasn't been public knowledge, but I have, and so I love the league, and I love the Ottawa Redblacks.
The UFL players that you were watching, the players down there, would you identify certain players as maybe good for the CFL? Was that always sort of
I would think that, I think all leagues, any league that plays football, there are players that can play in any of them, and then there's players that are specialized or would excel better in certain one. So yes, I'm always trying to identify and go, okay, that guy might excel better in the CFL, and then there's guys that you'll go, he might be better for the NFL. There's guys that play in this league that might be better in the NFL. I mean, it's just a lot of it's timing and being in the right place. And then the trickiness of the CFL is that it's not, every league has drafts that you get rights to, but then this league has negotiation rights to players, and they're coming on and off that list. So there's players locked up. So there's players that might be locked up places that would help here, and we might have players locked up that help somewhere else. You just don't have free reign. So there's quite the interesting battle, and as I will always say, it's not always about getting the best football player here. It's the best football player that has a passport and get across the border. So there's always challenges. So, but like you gotta have, and Ryan will learn this with me, is that I will try to always have, if we're looking for a position, 2 or 3 players, 3 or 4 players, and say, hey, coach, what do you think? And he may like one player better, or he may go, what do you think? And then I think it's this guy, and he may go, get him in here, and we'll figure it out. What
was it about Ryan that made you think he was the quarterback that you wanted, and then maybe would make a good coach as well?
Intelligence. I learned a lot about Ryan when he was playing in college because of his coach. Talked about him, and years later, he's like, he was the best guy I ever had. Said he was a little bit of a renegade at times, and he'll admit that. But I went after him, and he was around a good bit, and even Cliff Kingsbury came in during that time, and they became friends. But he got sick one training camp, and then next thing you know, Doug Berry got the head job at Winnipeg, and he talked to me quite a bit, and I said, you need to take Ryan, because, chances of Ryan playing for us wasn't high, because of the guy we had. But I felt great about him. So when he had a chance to be a coach, I wanted him there, and then we went through some different things and had some tough times, and he got a chance to actually coordinate a little bit, and did fantastic. And I realized sitting in meetings or sitting next to him while we're coordinating stuff, and he's not the coordinator, and he would give me the answer, give us the answer before the coordinator would. I knew he really had a great chance. And then different things happened there, and coaches wanted different people to be that guy. I wanted him to be the guy, and he had a chance to go to Calgary. I supported him. I said, you have a chance to continue learning from people. And then when I was in a situation in Toronto that needed somebody, I wanted him to come in, and not everybody wanted that. And then I laid a game plan out, and it was to have him there someday. And after, I think, COVID and a year off in the league, they hired him. So some people got really smart, and he's proved how valuable he is, and he's had some great teachers around him. And so when this opportunity was presented, knowing what I know about him, then I want to help him. I want to be a part of his success.
In terms of bringing in American talent, how much of a challenge does the UFL pose to just competing with bringing top guys in as well?
Well, they're looking. They have all different ages there, but they're looking for a majority of a younger player that has a chance to move in and out of the NFL over the next 2 years. So there's even a turnover there. There's a lot of players that we're all looking at, and there's a lot of players we're not in competition with. The CFL has a little bit older player, that is going to play longer. And we have guys that move back and forth to NFL, but there are also guys that are very happy and become stars here and maybe weren't quite ready for an NFL team, that won't ever get another opportunity. And that happens to people because of opportunity. So there's a lot of players out there, a lot of good football players that aren't even not even in any league right now, that aren't getting much of a chance. But you got to find them. You got to really research, find them, and you got to want them to want to play. It's not coming up here just for free service. It's how much do you want this? And but most guys that come to the CFL fall in love with it. They love it. They like playing it, and when they're in a good situation in a nice city like this, have the facilities, have a coach like Ryan that knows what he's doing, then they end up falling in love with the team themselves.